Woo! What's going on, guys? Orms Forum coming at you guys there with another video. In today's video, man, this is the Eagles at the Detroit Lions, the aftermath of the game that happened yesterday. The Lions lose a close battle this one, guys. 38-35, Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to get into that, but we're going to get into some stats too, and then we'll talk about the game as we go. But the quarterbacks, man, Jalen Hurts, 18 for 32, a 56% completion percentage, 243 yards, no touchdowns, sacked one time. Jared Goff was 21 for 37, 56% completion percentage as well, 215 yards, a couple touchdowns, and a pick. A real bad one at that, and we'll get into that in a bit. Running backs for the Eagles, Miles Sanders had 96 yards on the ground and a touchdown out of 7.4 yards per carry. Jalen Hurts killed us on the ground with 90 yards, a touchdown, 5.3 yards per carry. Kenneth Gainwell had 20 yards and a touchdown at 4 yards per carry as well. And then Boston Scott got in the end zone as well, too, with he had 10 yards. But he got into it. He did get into the end zone on a 1-yard plunge. And there was 216 yards total rushing for the Philadelphia Eagles. Can't stop the run still. Lions, though, DeAndre Swift had a massive game, 144 yards and a touchdown, 9.6 yards per carry. Jamal Williams had 28 yards and 2 touchdowns, only 2.5 yards per carry, but he was pretty much the goal line back for yesterday. He had 172 yards altogether rushing. Even Jared Goff even threw in 9 yards rushing to do that. Receiving, the Eagles, it wasn't a huge receiving day. A.J. Brown killed us, though, with 10 catches for 155 yards and 13 targets. Dallas Goedert had 3 catches for 60 yards, 4 targets as well, too. After that, man, Devonta Smith had no catches. Okudah played him pretty well. He wasn't on him all game, but he didn't let him catch a ball. He was targeted maybe a few times. Not really too sure about the targets for sure on him, but I know he was targeted at least a couple times. But he didn't have a catch, and then they had a couple catches between Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell. So it was just A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert that killed us through the air. For the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown had 8 catches for 64 yards and a touchdown on 12 targets. DJ Chark had 4 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown on a beautiful catch, 8 targets as well on that touchdown by Chark. Then Hawk had 4 catches for 38 yards. 7 targets as well. Swift had a few catches too as well. But there was a lot of drops by the Lions wide receivers, including Hawk. I counted 5 or 6. I guess there was something like 8. I don't remember 8 of them. I do remember at least a good 5 or 6. Josh Reynolds having the real huge drop, I thought, at the end of the game. We'll get into that a little bit more too. But defensive wise too, the Eagles, they gave up 35 points. They weren't special or anything. Marcus Epps, their safety, had 10 total tackles. Linebacker T.J. Edwards had 7 tackles. Safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson had 5 tackles. Fletcher Cox had 2 tackles and a sack. And then cornerback James Bradbury did have 2 tackles, a pick, and a pick 6. So that interception was a pick 6. So collectively, they didn't have a great game defensively. Philadelphia made some stops when they needed to. Couple individual guys did play well. Bradbury with the pick 6, obviously, but they made the stops when they needed to. But giving up 35 points, they need to go back to the drawing board as well. And then the Lions, we gave up 38 points, so we did not have a good game defensively. Safety Tracy Walker did have 11 tackles and a sack. He ended up getting kicked out in the third quarter, leading with his helmet on Jalen Hurts, and then getting into it with an old lineman, I believe it wasn't, through a punch. So it was two flags right away for personal fouls. He got ejected in the third quarter. Cornerback Jeff Okudah, who I thought had a really good game, did give up a couple catches to A.J. Brown, though. When he was on him, should have been on him more, though. But when he was on him, he did give up a few. A.J. Brown's an animal, so that's just the way it is. He had 10 tackles. Linebacker Alex Anzalone had 9 tackles. I thought he played an okay game. PFF gave him a bad score. But sometimes I don't understand what PFF does, even though I should look into that more. Safety, Deshaun Elliott had 6 tackles. Defensive end had Charles Harris had 7 tackles. Linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez had 6 tackles. And our number 2 overall pick, Aiden Hutchinson, only had 1 tackle, I believe, a couple pressures, but could not get. He got his hand on Jalen Hurts, it looked like, a couple times, but he over pursued, he over contained, he played a little bit with his hair on fire. But he got into the backfield. He did. He got bopped around. Not gonna lie, he did get bopped around, but he needs to be in a little bit more control. So that's what's going on with the stats, guys. Now I'm going to talk about the Lions offense. Okay, DeAndre Swift. Wow, what a game by DeAndre. What do we have here? 144 yards and a touchdown. He looked great running the football. Even had a nice couple catches too as well. He is the real deal, DeAndre Swift. It's all health from him, and I thought he played really well. Now, the O-line I thought played pretty good too. Stenberg was in there, didn't give up much. I think he might have gave up the sack to Fletcher Cox, but all in all, I thought he played okay, and I thought Sewell was great. He seemed to be matched up on Reddick, if I can remember correctly. I was at that game. I had a lot to drink, but I do remember the whole game. So it was a fun time. I thought Sewell played well. I thought the whole O-line in general played well. You know, a couple pressures on Goff. Obviously, it's going to happen. He ended up getting only sacked one time by Fletcher Cox. But I thought the O-line played great, man. They played good in pass pro. I thought they played good in run blocking, obviously. I thought they did a good job. Now, Swift, I've already counted on, or already hit on. And then Jared Goff, I thought Jared Goff was bad for about two and a half, maybe 3 quarters of football. He just didn't. He was really bad in the first half. They had that one nice drive that led to a touchdown. It was mostly Swift, though, to tell you the truth, and he ended up wanting to get into the touchdown too, I believe. But all in all, Goff I don't think was good. I'm going to say he was really bad for about 2.5 quarters, 3 quarters of football. Then played better in the fourth quarter, but it wasn't junk yards. That's the good thing that. That's a good thing that I can hit on about Goff. It wasn't unnecessary yardage. They weren't down by 20 points getting, first downs and getting touchdowns. The Lions were in the game for most of the game. Like, they were down by 10 at one point, maybe even 13 at one point, but they always started cutting it down. Goff played better in the second half, especially the fourth quarter. It was never a runaway for Philadelphia, so you can't say, well, Jared Goff was terrible for 4 quarters, and they gave him cushions. Philadelphia, that's not the way it was. Goff did play better late into the third and then into the fourth quarter, but he was bad for I thought for at least 2.5 quarters. I thought he was bad. He needs to tighten up. Has he shown improvement from last year? 150%. He looked a lot better, but he needs to be better, more consistent. Just be consistent. I'm not saying he needs to score a touchdown every single drive. That'd be phenomenal, but that's just not reality. They had so many 3-and-outs on that first and second quarter. It was really bad. They had at least, man, I wish I would have wrote this down. I didn't write it down. I saw at least 3 or 4 3-and-outs, maybe even, it seemed like even more in that first half of football. And then it started getting into the third quarter, did it again. Then they started playing a little bit better down the stretch. They need to be better. Like, I don't know what it is, man. I don't know what it is. There's some errant throws. That interception that he threw was terrible. Now, everybody can sit there and say, well, Hockenson ran the wrong route. Hockenson goes left, or whatever he does. He went inside. And there was a 4-man rush. So if anybody's telling you there's a blitz, they're lying through their teeth, because there's pictures of it on the internet too. There was a 4-man rush. Hawk looked like he was it looked like there was some pressure coming in through the middle, though. Whoever was coming in through that middle, that D lineman, whoever that was getting some pressure, coming in hot on Jared Goff. So he had Swift wide open on the left of him on the sidelines. Should have threw it to him, but the guy was the main guy was Hockenson all the way. You could tell. Goff doesn't even take his eyes off him. It doesn't even look like he took his eyes off him, because if he would have done that, he would have thrown it to Swift. So Hockenson goes inside. I guess apparently he was supposed to go outside. He goes inside. There's already 2 guys there, 2 Eagles sitting there, and another one coming in. another safety kind of coming in. So there would have been 3 guys within that vicinity. So if Goff would have waited maybe a second more, when Hawk breaks into the middle, which is I think you're supposed to do, you're not supposed to run into coverage, even if the play calls for that. This is where I think they don't have. This is where chemistry comes into play. This is where I think, okay, as a tight end and a quarterback situation, you see a route going, I'm supposed to go left, and you see everybody there, and I break it right. You know what I'm doing? I'm breaking off the play. You don't run into coverage. No, like, unless you think it's a good one-on-one matchup, unless you think you can beat the guy, hands down. But there was like double coverage there. There was 2 guys there, and a third one barreling in. So Goff never should have thrown that ball to Hockenson. Never should have thrown it at all. Bradbury picks it off because it was tipped too. I think at the line of scrimmage. So it was tipped, and then in Bradbury's hands, interception. The Eagles put more points on the board. So I thought that was a really bad throw by Goff. Now with the wide receivers, they didn't do favors, man. They dropped balls. Reynolds had that humongous drop, I thought, in the fourth quarter. That was probably 6. There was nobody really there. It looked like the corner might have even fell at one point. So I think he was gone for 6. There was nobody really within that area where Reynolds isn't the fastest guy, but it looked like he had clear sailing all the way if he would have caught that ball. Now, they need to be better than wide receivers. They can't have 5, 6, 7, 8 drops. This is the same thing every damn year with this team. Drops, this, that. Oh no, my quarterback throws too hard. Like, the fans don't know what to say. Like for years, it was Stafford throws too hard. For years, that's all it was. There should be no such thing. And we don't have Matthew Stafford here anymore. We have Jared Goff, so he doesn't throw too hard. So when you dropping the ball is crucial. Especially when you see it, guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who doesn't drop balls. Him dropping a ball was huge. Hawk had a drop, like I said. Reynolds with that big, gigantic drop. We might even had a running back or 2 that had a drop. So Chark had a drop. Everybody had a drop, it seemed like, man. So it was 5 or 6 drops, maybe even more. They need to clean that stuff up. And then Hockenson, Hockenson had the drop. A lot of people are saying they don't like his effort in this game. I didn't really notice him with the lack of effort. He did have a nice catch and run where he bounced off a couple guys. So I know his yak is always talked about, his yards after the catch. But he does catch the ball and he tends to go down pretty fast. But I did see that one play where he did have a nice catch and run. But there's a lot of people out there saying that his lack of effort was a little bit concerning. I don't see it just yet. Okay, now onto the defense, man. The D-line got gashed. Okay, the D-line got gashed. Aiden Hutchinson, our number 2 overall pick, he, like I said, played a little bit with his hair on fire, needs to be under more control. He got into the backfield, it looks like, got his hands on Jalen Hurd a couple times, but couldn't finish. And football's not a game of almost. It's not a game of almost. You have to make plays. You're the number 2 overall pick. Play with a little bit under control, man. I get it was his first game, but look what Travon Walker did in Jacksonville. He had a game, man. 4 or 5 tackles, a sack, a pick. That kid was all over the place. So, and it's not Travon Walker versus Aiden Hutchinson. It's not. A lot of people will make it out to be, but, like I just kind of did. But it's really not that. He needs to focus on himself and do what he could do. And he needs to be better. He needs to play the run better. He needs to get to the quarterback. He needs to finish. Like, you got to the quarterback, he just didn't finish. And I didn't see any real crazy pressure from a lot of other guys. Charles Harris, I didn't see a lot of pressure from Charles Harris. There was some pressure underneath I saw, or from the middle. I saw that Isaiah Buggs got in there once or twice. Aleem McNeil might have got in there. They didn't have great games, but they did cause a bit of pressure. Then all of a sudden, just Hurts is gone. So you just have to be better. Because it just looked like Hurts was trying to put the ball down and going. You know what I mean? And they just couldn't stop anybody. The Lions couldn't stop anybody. D-line, linebackers, secondary. Secondary played better than I thought they would. No, they actually did. But I knew Hurts wasn't going to be a great passer in this game, and he wasn't. He was efficient, he was efficient, but he only threw 56% of his completed 56% of his passes. But he did have 243 yards. It wasn't a bad game. No touchdowns. But now on to the linebackers. I thought the linebackers were not good. Malcolm Rodriguez had I thought he had a really nice debut. You can see it in him. You can see it in him that I think he's going to be special. You can actually see it on this kid. He's a try-hard kid. He's not the biggest. But he's strong as hell. There was a play on the goal line where he literally, Kelsey blocks him, and Jason Kelsey's one of the best centers in the league, and he blocks him pretty good out of the play, but Rodriguez hip tosses this guy and throws him over like he's a rag doll. Like you don't see that much in the NFL. No matter how big a guy is, and how much he's going the way he gets tossed, he got tossed, and that was a good play by Rodriguez. And the play got stuffed at the goal line too. It wasn't because of that play, but it really took Kelsey out a little bit out of the play. But it still was a pretty good block by Kelsey. I'm not going to say it was a bad block. It was a good block. But Rodriguez kind of like getting himself back into the mix of that play a little bit by hip tossing him was pretty cool. Was really cool. And he made a bunch of tackles. He made like 6-7 tackles. He had a tackle for loss. I thought he played pretty good. There's some stuff he needs to clean up for sure. Anzalone too. I thought he wasn't that bad. I know he got a bad PFF grade too. He might have whiffed on a few tackles, but that's what he does. But I thought he had like 9 tackles or 10 tackles, and he had a nice tackle for loss. I remember too as well. I thought he was okay. Barnes, didn't even see Barnes. Didn't see Chris Board. Kind of came in a little bit later. Was spying Jalen Hurts, but we'll talk about that in a second too. Now the secondary I thought was okay. Amani Oruwariye though got absolutely abused. He got taken to the shed, like my buddy Greg Rice said, man. Taken to the woodshed, and he was spanked. He was absolutely spanked in this game. Now, he is not a cornerback one. He's not. No matter what anybody says out there, he's just not. He's a good number 2. Now, they might have to put Okudah on these number 1 guys now. I don't want to sound like it's overreactionary because of one game, but Okudah did play well. He did play pretty good. He did give up a couple catches to A.J. Brown, but A.J. Brown does that religiously. So it's not like it's a new thing. But they might want to try to experiment with Okudah on number 1s. So we'll talk about that later when we talk about the Washington Commanders, but we're not doing that right now. So the corners, it was all right. I guess Hughes had a really nice game in the nickel. Shut down Zach Pascal, their third wide receiver. So he played pretty good in coverage at least. Tracy Walker did have a bunch of tackles and a sack, but he kind of gave up some blown coverages and a couple blown coverages on the ground too in the run game. So he didn't have a great game, but I don't think he had a bad game. Deshaun Elliott was okay. I didn't think he was that bad. Goddard did have 3 catches for 60 yards. So whoever was on him most of the game seemed to have covered him, but he did have a couple big yards. Especially, I think in the fourth quarter too, Goddard had that really big catch to get him down to the goal line or close to, and then they end up scoring. But all in all, man, I thought the safeties played okay. Walker could have been a little bit better. The nickels were okay. Oruwariye was really, really bad though. All in all, the defense I thought was really bad. You don't give up 38 points and you can't really, it's hard to look for positives. It really is. There's some positives to it, but it's just really tough. Aaron Glenn, I thought, made 2 late adjustments. Why you didn't have a spy on Jalen Hurts from the second that game started was beyond me. They waited until like the third or into the third quarter to start spying Jalen Hurts. And they contained him a little bit better. But he still ran all over you guys. He ran all over us, man. He ran all over the Detroit Lions defense. And it wasn't pretty. It was almost at a point where Jalen Hurts wasn't even caring who was open or not open. He would just look down the field, feel a tiny bit of pressure, and just go. He would go. And I was talking to Philly fans during that game, and there's people saying, this kid runs way too much. We like him, but he's going to get himself killed. And he's going to get himself killed if he keeps doing that. He doesn't look for his reads, but he's a danger with his legs. Oh, he's a danger, and he's comfortable, confident in his legs. But it was almost to a point where he just wasn't really even looking for guys downfield. He felt a sniff of pressure. He was gone. So defensively, man, I thought Aaron Glenn dropped the ball. I thought he dropped the ball. He should have had Jeff Okudah on A.J. Brown. This is all learning, man. We're all week one, but he should have made adjustments more earlier about Jalen Hurts too as well, and then the A.J. Brown situation as well. So I'm not going to put this game on just one person because I thought Goff was not consistent enough during the game. Playing good late into the game doesn't cut it for me, even though it wasn't all like fluff catch-up game where they were giving us cushion because they weren't. But he needs to be better during the game. Like, you can't just be good in one half of a quarter. Like, you can't be good just then. You know, you can't have a good drive and then just be, shit the bed. Like the next 3, 4, 5 in a row, then have a nice drive, then do 4 or 5 in a row again. And we need more consistency. So I put this on Goff. I put this on the wide receivers, dropping the ball too much. The defense was hot junk. Overall, I thought they got some pressure, but they didn't finish. So almost doesn't count for me. It doesn't count for me. I'm glad you got pressure. I'm glad we got it, but they need to be better. So and then I put a little bit of on Glenn too. He didn't make adjustments quick enough on Hurts and Brown, I thought, and it was just an overall gong show. It was an overall gong show. You don't win football games giving up 30 plus points. Even though we scored 31, we still lost. You're supposed to win games when you score 31 points. You are. So we played better down the stretch. I thought Swift had a phenomenal game. Defense was bad. Goff, I thought, was bad for most of the game. Overall, good old line. D-line was not good. Getting pressure is fun and all, but close it up. And that's really about it. Coaching, this and that. I think I hit on everything, guys. Thanks for... losing to 38-35, not ideal. Some positives, lots of negatives, lots to clean up. Now you have Detroit Lions playing at home again this week against the Washington Commanders, who just dropped a bunch of points on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know it's the Jaguars, but it doesn't matter. Carson Wentz had a really nice game, threw a couple picks, but he did throw for like 4 or 5 touchdowns. I think it was 4 touchdowns. So that whole wide receiving core is a problem. Logan Thomas, healthy tight end, is a problem. Antonio Gibson, the running back, is a problem. So don't sleep on the Commanders. And we'll get on that anyways, man, a little bit later on down the road. But thanks a lot, guys. Very long video. Sorry about that. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button bottom right. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, get all my videos, and don't forget to like, comment, and share this out. We lost a tough one, 38-35. Lions are 0-1. Got to clean it up. Cannot go down 0-2. Go Lions. One pride, baby. Boom.